Hey guys, thanks for joining. Let's kind of let some folks jump on here. Hey Amelia.
Hello.
Give it another minute or so, and then we can kind of jump right into it. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Looks like maybe people are jumping on and then leaving, maybe because we're not talking. So kind of set this up. I did a post yesterday, kind of called it "First Do No Harm." The idea was that I think that all coaches, but I'm focused on throws coaches, um, should that should be their first goal, is to not injure their athletes. And what ended up happening was, did the post, and there was a little blurb in there kind of about Olympic lifts, and that maybe in some situations Olympic lifts should be replaced by something else that's a little bit safer. And what ended up happening was Travis Riley from Travis Throws responded pretty negatively to me about it. And, you know, I know on social media it's kind of like, any publicity is good publicity, but, trying to be as nice as possible. And so that's kind of how I responded. And then he came out and kind of told everybody that I was a know nothing coach, and that I need to just learn these simple movements and that sort of thing. So last night I asked Travis to join me on a live, and he agreed to join. But then I woke up this morning and I had a text from him saying that he would rather just talk about it in DM. And so here we are. I invited Amelia to talk to me instead. So my name's Darren Flynt. I've been either throwing or coaching for about 33 years now, specifically in the throws. And of course, I've done a whole lot of Olympic weightlifting during that time. And Amelia is my daughter. She throws at the University of Nebraska for Coach Justin St. Clair. I think everybody probably kind of knows how good their team is there. Hey, Axelina's on. Cool. So kind of with that, let me go ahead and read the post just so kind of everything is, set the stage here. I said, coaches, like doctors, should follow the principle of first do no harm. Prioritizing the well-being of athletes is crucial. Create a safe and supportive environment, guide them towards growth, and lead with integrity. Let's coach with care. And then in the sort of in the caption, I said, safety should be paramount in every aspect of training, including exercise selection. When it comes to power exercises, it's essential to choose movements that maximize benefits while minimizing risks. While Olympic lifts can be effective for developing power, they require proper technique and coaching expertise to ensure safety. For coaches who prioritize athlete safety, alternative exercises like thrusters, and I was kind of thinking like hammer strength thrusters, something like that, pitch shark, Vertimax, overhead throws, things like that. There's other ways to build power, and especially explosive power, not necessarily doing a full Olympic snatch or an Olympic clean or something like that. And so a little bit of background for me when it comes to Olympic lifting. Literally the first time I ever maxed in snatches in high school, I believe I was 14. And we were in a situation, my coach was just kind of just learning the Olympic lifts. He later went on to become an amazing Olympic lifting coach, but I happened to be there, when he first started kind of learning it. And I ended up missing a max. It was like 165 or something like that in snatch, and herniated 4 discs in my back. Ultimately ended up having to have surgery, and it was a disaster. And then Amelia's mom, later when we met at the University of Nebraska, when I first met her, I think she had just come out of surgery, and she ended up with carpal tunnel in both wrists from doing cleans. She essentially, they had to go in and kind of cut the sheath inside of her wrist to release the pressure. And she still was able to throw and everything. But all these experiences just caused me to think, man, are there better ways to get explosive without, being unsafe? And so I know, Amelia, kind of give some of your thoughts on it. I know, obviously, when you were at Cal, you guys did a lot of like rack jerks. I feel like Coach Mo did a lot of things to try to make sure that you guys were safe, even though you were doing Olympic style movements. And then kind of now with Justin, I mean, don't share any secrets or anything, but kind of how do you feel about Olympic lifting and versus maybe doing something else? And it's not cut and dry for me. I think you know that. But just kind of give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think every athlete is different. And so whatever works for some athletes may work for some people, and then it might not work for others. So I think that's what I love about being with Coach St. Clair is like all of our, like, nobody has like the same exact lift, because you talk about what works for you. You talk about like what doesn't feel so great, what makes you feel slow, like, and like just that power output is like that's really important. And so I think a big thing for me is like if maybe I'm better at like clean, like a hang clean than like doing it from the ground, or so I think it's important that like you just kind of find what works best for your body. And like if there's something that hurts you, like why would you continue doing it? And so some people are great at it, some people's bodies are made for it, and then I feel like there's some bodies that just like they're not so made for it. Like for me, my vertebrae didn't grow, and so I have like this genetic defect, and so it's hard for me sometimes with my back. Like I will constantly and forever always have like inflammation in my discs, and so like certain movements and certain lifts like are going to always agitate that more than others. But as long as I can find something else to do, like that's all that counts. So I mean everyone's different, and so I think it's important that for the coach, it's important that they find what works best for their athletes. That's going to like overall give them the best success.
No, I think that's absolutely true. And I think you talk to any of the top throws coaches, and they're going to say exactly what you said, which is you customize the training to the athlete. And I would even go farther with that and say you customize the technique to the athlete. A lot of people talk about technical models and things like that, and I think it's too easy to get wrapped up in kind of those, I call them recipes. But it's the best throws coaches should be kind of like an advanced chef, not a beginner cook who's following a recipe. And that may work if you're teaching junior hires. I still would kind of disagree with that too, but yeah, absolutely. And I think, you and I talked this morning about what if you're like extremely tall. Obviously we have that situation with your brother had to get back surgery from doing deadlifts, and I normally wouldn't think of deadlifts as a terrible thing for him to do, but he got himself caught in a situation with a trainer who decided he wanted everybody to max one day. And of course you want to go with the crowd. You want to get pumped up and try to beat everybody. And then he ends up in the hospital. Right. And so, yeah, I think this idea, and I talk about prioritizing your training, right? To me, and I always say priority one, don't get hurt. And to me, if you're trying to do anything really well, like let's say throwing a shot put far, the first thing you got to do is throw a shot put. So to a lot of people, I don't know, I just don't know if that's obvious. It's don't get hurt, go throw shot put. And then you start kind of going down the list of things that maybe help you throw the shot put far. And to me, something like a clean or a snatch may be pretty far down my list, to be honest. You think about it, if I'm lifting 300 pounds over my head, which a lot of great shot putters can snatch that much, the men at least, but it's questionable whether snatching 300 pounds, how much it helped them throw, say, 22 meters in the shot put. You know, how do those two things go together? And the thing that actually, I didn't talk about this at the outset, but the thing that kind of precipitated this, I've got a good friend who I've met through coaching named Billy Granville, who played linebacker in the NFL for a lot of years. And when you're playing as a professional and making the kind of money that NFL players make, trust me, you think about this first do no harm deal a lot, right? You do not, the last thing you want to do is get hurt, because then the paychecks stop, right? And so a pro thrower, same thing, right? So like, I think a lot of times where folks are coming from when they're really pushing the Olympic lifts is they probably just really have a deep love for the Olympic lifts. I know I do. Like when the Olympics are going on or world championships. I mean, we attended the world championships when they were in Houston in weightlifting. I love it. But at the end of the day, the goal of weightlifting and the goal of throwing, they're two they're much more different than probably people realize. When you're trying to make a 9-pound or a 16-pound ball go as far as possible versus you're trying to put as much weight as you can over your head, those are two vastly different things. And, but Amelia, one of the things that you and I have done, right, is things like in the past when I was coaching you, hey, let's see how fast we can snatch this ball, right? That's closer to throwing a shot put than let's see how much weight I can put over the top of my head. There's some level of correlation there between those two things, but I think there's probably a higher correlation between how fast you can move a 45-pound bar in a snatch than there is to how much you can snatch over your head. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think during certain, like, there's different times in your training where it's going to be how fast you can move something, and then there's going to be times where you max out, maybe, and there's going to be times where you're just, like, doing lots of volume. So, like, I think it definitely depends on the kind of athlete you are, and it depends on the time of year. For example, like, hammer throwers are probably the ones that are going to do Olympic lifts the most comparatively to, like, shot putters and discus throwers. But I definitely, like, I have plenty of Olympic lifts in my program, but it's not necessarily what I'm most focused on. Where, like, there's times where you'll just be doing, like, hang cleans or hang snatches rather than, like, the full clean and snatch. Like, so there, I think it totally depends on when and where you are in your season, and training wise. So I think where that's also another thing where you kind of play with, when you're going to input that into your training.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, definitely agree with that. Obviously, depending on, what type of periodization you're doing and then that sort of thing, right? No, absolutely. And I guess just for the audience here, if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and kind of throw them up there. I'm kind of watching. I don't see any questions yet. Definitely appreciate everybody who's on. I'm kind of fanboy here looking at some of you guys that are on here. Breck, Nicolas, Axelina, pretty cool. But definitely appreciate it. When I kind of decided to start this throws logic thing, I've been coaching for a long time, and through myself for a long time. And want to kind of give a shout out to Marlon Haynes over at Hurdle Science. Marlon was the one who kind of motivated me to do this and said, hey man, you got a lot to share. You should do this. And so, been really pushing it and trying to kind of just put out there what I can about what I know, and obviously also enjoy kind of posting about our throwers that we coach and that sort of thing. And obviously Amelia used to be one of those, and she comes and throws with us when she's home and that sort of thing. And believe it or not, we do Olympic lifts in my garage. And we've actually got a full set of jerk racks in there at the moment. And so yeah, I was a little disappointed when kind of got the pushback about being a know nothing coach and that sort of thing. And you want to respond very aggressively, but kind of a fan of trying to be as nice as I can. So that's how I chose to do this. But and I'll definitely DM with Travis, and we'll talk about kind of where I was coming from and where he was coming from and that sort of thing. The funny thing about Travis is I really love some of the videos he posts. In fact, I'm a big fan of kind of early Oldfield, kind of Jocko Gill when he was young, kind of what their technique looked like. And a lot of my throwing friends that I talk to the most, it's those kind of shot put techniques that we talk about a lot, Brishnikov. And so I really love that Travis, posts all those folks. And that's how kind of I ended up following him early on. And so, yeah, it was a little sad when I saw the way that he responded, but hopefully we're kind of dealing with that in the right way. So anyhow.
Like we have a question.
Hey.
But the difference between Cal and Nebraska, and I'm not like too much detail about that necessarily, because I love both, and both are going to be very deeply, they're always going to be in my heart, because Cal's where I started, and I did love a lot of things about Cal, but I also love a lot about Nebraska. I would have to say that my biggest difference at Nebraska training wise is my strength and conditioning coach, Chase. He's absolutely amazing. And when I tell you that he's gotten me to add 70 to 80 pounds on my bench press in 4 or 5 months, and my snatch went from only being able to do 135 to 170, and it's only been 4 months, and that's just been the most amazing thing, is seeing how much I've grown as an athlete, because there's so much more support at Nebraska for our athletes. And I can't even push how much support there really is. And it kind of made me sad, seeing for a year and a half how much support I didn't have, and that I could have had. So I can't be happier that I'm here at Nebraska. The food is just amazing. And the people that are here to support you, as in life skills, and academics, and your coaches, everyone around just wants to see you succeed. The athletes want to see each other succeed. We always make sure that we're the loudest out there. Nebraska always wants to be the loudest people out there. And honestly, their slogan is that the best come to Nebraska to get even better. And I think that's absolutely that's the truth. And all of the coaches understand that that's what's going to happen. So honestly, I loved Cal, but I think I liked Cal more because of, yes, we love Kevin working at Turning Table. Yeah. I loved Cal for the academics, and that had a great part into the kind of person that I am today. But Nebraska we have a way better system of preparing us for the real world. And I take career development classes, and there's nothing like that at Cal. Nebraska has set in stone a lot of we go on mock interviews a lot. There's just a lot of opportunities at Nebraska to try to get you prepared for the real world, internships, and just everyone's just super supportive. And I think as a student athlete, you work so hard in the classroom, and you work so hard on the track or whatever you do, whatever your sport is, that having those people there to help you in life. And you're not always going to be an athlete, and so that's also one of the most important things. And I work for Coach Rule, and we listened to one of his, I guess, speeches, you could say. And when he talked about like that he brings his athletes in and football players in, and he wants to create them and turn them into men, that really resonated with me, because like they're focused on you being a great athlete here and being very successful, but they're also focused on what you'll be when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, and the kind of person you'll be when you're 30, 40, 50 years old. So I think that's like the biggest difference between Cal and Nebraska. And honestly, I wouldn't change my decision like ever. I think I made the right decision.
Yeah, I think it's a different vibe at every school, right? And you got to kind of find your vibe, find your tribe, right? It's just two completely different places. And obviously you were there, you didn't get to do any visits really because of COVID. And, did take kind of a quick little trip out to Cal just to kind of see the place. But I think there was nobody there when you went. And, one thing I want to make perfectly clear is we love Coach Mo. He and I have been friends since I was 14, and he was probably 16 or 17 or something like that. And absolutely amazing. It's been amazing kind of bouncing ideas off of him over the years. We were training partners at one point and did all sorts of weird hammer drills and things, just kind of playing around when we were young with, how to make ourselves throw farther. And so, but I also went to the University of Nebraska, and so was kind of reminded when Amelia went back and visited just what an amazing place it is. Our son will be up there in December, January timeframe to play football, and really shocked me when I flew up there for the first time, got off the airplane for Amelia's official visit, and just got reminded just how amazing and warm the people are there. And me as a 47-year-old man now, they still help me, if I need to find a job or whatever. Nebraska is just amazing when it comes to that sort of thing. So you got to be careful, I think, a little bit with college rankings and that sort of thing. I saw a Stanford kind of paper recently that talked about, it's just way more important to find where you fit and where you're going to thrive versus kind of what the school's ranking is, and that sort of thing. So I see there's a question about how young is too young to pursue coaching. I'll talk about Coach Mo here a little bit because I think, he and I, like I said, are around the same age. And one of the things we talk about a lot is that we think that there are probably too many situations now where athletes graduate, they finish throwing, and they think that they are ready to coach top level throwers right out of the gate. And I just flat out do not believe that. I believe that there is a long path toward kind of, I can see being an apprentice. I'm a real big fan of the old apprentice system. Just like Maddie's doing with Coach Justin, right? Like it's you don't just immediately get to become a top throws coach just right out of college, or even worse. I remember I got a high school throws coaching job right out of college, and there was a kid there who didn't go to throw in college, but they were letting him kind of come and coach with me. And, I do think you need to have been at least a level or two above kind of where the folks are that you're coaching, in a sense. And that doesn't always have to be true. Obviously, you're not going to be a couple levels above a pro, and you shouldn't have to be a pro to be a coach. All that to say, just like anything that's worth doing, it takes a very long time to learn how to do it right. And it especially takes a long time. We were so blessed to have Amelia win the U20 national championships last year, and so she got to go compete at Worlds, and Americans almost never get opportunities when they're young to compete internationally. A lot of folks don't realize this, but when you're an international athlete and you go to almost any track meet, it's an international track meet, right? Like, if you're in the Czech Republic where Amelia's mom is from, almost every track meet she ever did was international. So you're learning the international system of kind of how the track meets work, very early. So in my case, at least, I didn't have that full international coaching experience until just last year. And I think that somebody who's coaching college probably should have that. And that honestly is a big reason that I really wanted Amelia to go with Coach Mo and coach then later with Coach Justin. They both have that. It's old hat to them. You're going to go to track meets, and if it's in a country that doesn't like America, then they might not weigh in your shot just to mess with you. There's all these things you have to kind of learn, and so I think if you just jump into coaching really early, you're probably going to be hurting your athlete just as much as you help them, especially kind of the better they get. You're not going to know what to do. So I'm a big fan of a relatively long apprenticeship before someone becomes a college coach, or even higher, a coach of pros. So
I saw a question about college recruiting. I don't know if it meant like that recruiting, like athletes out of high school, or like what high school athletes should be looking for before they go to college. I feel like I could answer both, but
yeah, we're covering a lot of topics here.
Yeah, that would be pretty in-depth. Well, not in-depth, but it's a lot to go and think about when you're getting recruited to go to college. A lot for a 17 or 16, 18-year-old brain to comprehend or understand, like, kind of what's going on, knowing when, like, sadly, some people might be lying, and it's not really like that, and it's just a whole, like, sales pitch. So I think that's also really hard to kind of see, and like, I think the biggest thing is like knowing when people are going to be genuine. And so I think that's the biggest part is you got to look for, it's almost like you're dating, right? You got to look for those red flags pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's just like job interviews too. Like you go on a job interview and you as the interviewee and them as the interviewers, everyone's on their best behavior. Nobody talks about anything negative, and that sort of thing. So it's, in my opinion, you've got to be resourceful. And today with social media and stuff, it's so much easier. You've got to be resourceful and talk to people who aren't at that school anymore, talk to maybe other coaches where, who you trust. You got to talk to kind of as many people as you possibly can. Don't make a flippant decision. I would say, people probably get mad at me for saying this, but if somebody gives you an ultimatum, I would consider just don't even talk to that coach anymore. A lot of kids get in trouble because of that, because maybe they want to go to this big school with this big throws coach, and yet, that coach gives them an ultimatum of a week or 2 weeks or something. Well, that may not be the right amount of time to figure out if it's the place for you. Like I said before, the whole vibe and tribe thing, like, you honestly do have to find a place that fits you really, really well. And I don't want to say anything about politics here, but, if you are a conservative type of person, you might want to look at conservative types of schools. If you are a progressive type of person, you might want to look at progressive types of schools. That matters more, I think, today than it ever did in the past. I've learned that through football kids I've helped, and things like that as well. But at the end of the day, it'll be kind of a feeling, I think, that you get when you go to that place and you talk to those people and, find out what happens in closed practices. A lot of athletes probably don't realize that when you're going to a practice, everybody who's there knows you're there. So, hopefully I'm not letting out some top secret deal here, but like, if people know you're there, they're going to be on their best behavior. Find out what happens in the closed practices where, folks, and I'm thinking more of some football stuff I know of, with that example. But, just be really careful that it's the right place for you, and you've asked a lot of questions from people outside of the situation who might know about the situation where you're at. So, cool deal. I should start a YouTube channel.
Don't give him ideas, bro.
Give me ideas. I think everybody knows I could talk about throwing 24/7. But no, definitely appreciate that. Definitely we'll think about that. Believe it or not, I have written a book too, so one of these days we'll get that out there. But it's a book focused more on throws coaching principles than it is on like what technique to use or things like that. So hopefully people kind of understand why I wrote it that way. But so Average Joe, Travis agreed last night to join, and then I woke up this morning and he sent me a message asking that he and I just talk in text instead, in DM instead. And so we brought my daughter Amelia on here to talk with me instead. So
I think I'd go on and have a little more information.
So, but yeah, he and I are DMing and kind of hopefully we'll find a happy medium and understand each other. And I mentioned before, I really do love some of the videos he posts, especially like the ones where he's showing, some sort of little known situations like, what Holfield's technique looked like when he was younger, or what Jocko Gill looked like when he was, when he threw the world record as a I think it was a U18 with the 5K and stuff like that. And so, I've always valued kind of his content. Anyhow, yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, we're coming up on about 30 minutes worth of talking here. So it looks like we've probably got some folks kind of peeling off. But if there's not any more questions, I'd say we call it. And obviously this will be available. Make sure this is available. Oh my gosh, the next 23-meter thrower. I don't even hardly pay attention to that stuff very much.
Not at all.
Yeah, Amelia might be closer to it than I am, to be honest. But I'll tell you what, when I watch Max practice, there's a lot more there. I know a lot of people say that, but when I watch Max and Peyton as well, Peyton just came back from an injury and just exploded. So pretty amazing seeing him in the top three. And I still remember when he showed up. Well, when he first showed up, and all of us saw him for the first time when he was at South Dakota State. But yeah, Peyton and then Max. So maybe be the first brother 23-meter throwers. So cool deal. Yeah, let's go ahead and call it. Amelia, appreciate you joining from Lincoln, and I'm in Katy, Texas, just FYI, but we're burning up down here. So, really appreciate all the questions, and like I said, we'll have this available, just shortly after this is done. Thanks, everybody.